Hello everyone, welcome to my lecture series of electromagnetic fields. We will discuss different theories, phenomena and numerical solution of different cases in this series. I hope this series will give a fruitful outcome to physics scholars or engineering students. So up to the last part of this lecture series we have seen the Gauss's law, its application and limitations. Fine. Today we are going to discuss about some really important applications of Gauss's law, in which I have covered three cases. First one will be infinite line charge, the second one will be infinite sheet charge, and third one will be coaxial cable. So let us start. So to find out the field intensity or say electric flux density, we are going to apply Gauss's law to determine these things due to infinite line charge. Okay, so for the convention we have taken a Cartesian coordinate system and x, y and z axis. As you can see, I have plotted the infinite line charge with line charge density rho L coulomb per meter, and this infinite line charge has been extended from negative infinity to positive infinity on z axis. Okay, now if you want to find the value of field intensity or flux density at any point due to this infinite line charge with the help of Gauss's law, then what is the procedure? The procedure is very simple. We have already discussed in a last video. Fine. However, I am telling you. So the procedure is to determine the direction of D. The second step will be to determine Gaussian surface. The third step was to take dot product. Fourth step is to close integration of this dot product. See here, d bar is unknown till this day. Then fifth step is to determine charge, and then we will compare q equals to d bar dot ds bar. So this is the standard procedure to determine anything with the help of Gauss's law. Now, due to this infinite line charge, the direction of flux density, so it will be radially outwards. Say if it is positively charged, so if the value of rho L is positive, then the direction of d bar or flux density will be radially outwards. So here, from the symmetricity of the charge distribution, we can imagine that we should adopt a cylinder as a Gaussian surface, and we should also adopt cylindrical coordinate system to solve this case. Fine. Here the selection of Gaussian surface and coordinate system is very crucial. So I have taken a cylinder as a Gaussian surface which is having a radius r and height L, or we can also say the length. Fine. So this is our Gaussian surface. Now if we are taking anything as a Gaussian surface, then we must verify that either this surface is satisfying all three conditions of being Gaussian surface. So let us verify. The surface must be covered the charges. So here the distribution of charge is infinite, so it is obvious that if you want to cover infinite charge, then for this cylinder it should be of infinite height. But however, for the line itself, it is covering some portion of our charge, so first condition is satisfied. Secondly, it must be closed surface. So as you can see, our cylinder is closed. It is having a top part, bottom part and a curved surface. So our surface is very much close. And thirdly, the direction of d bar should be parallel or tangential with the surface. So as you can see, at every point of this curved surface, the direction of d bar and direction of surface is same. So here for the curved surface, you will get the direction of surface and direction of intensity will be same. For top and bottom surface, as you can see, for top surface the direction of D is radially outward and the vector of the top surface is upward. So as you can see here, they will make 90-degree angle. Here both the vectors will make 0-degree angle. Okay, so third condition is also satisfied, that at any point of the surface the direction of D bar is either normal or tangential to the direction of differential surface. Fine. So with this understanding, the derivation is very simple. Fine. The important thing over here is to have a understanding that why we are using this shape of Gaussian surface, why we are using cylindrical coordinate system to solve this case. Fine. Only because of simplicity. Fine. And our easiness. So now that we are clear that why we have selected a cylinder, it is only because of symmetricity of charge. Okay. Now we are considering a small differential surface ds. Let me remove these unnecessary things now. So we have considered a small differential surface ds, which is in the direction of radius, and here the direction of d bar is also in a direction of radius coordinate of cylindrical coordinate system. Okay, so now that we have determined the direction of d bar, so what is the direction of d bar? It is AR bar. We have also found the Gaussian surface. What is the Gaussian surface over here? So a cylinder. Then we will going to find the dot product. Okay, so what is the step over here? So d bar, or say from the Gauss's law, Q equals to closed surface integration of d bar dot ds bar. Here d bar is only having a radial component, because we know that for this case the flux density will only have its effect in perpendicular direction to the charge distribution. So d bar will only have the radial component, so we can write d bar is equals to dr in the direction of radius. Okay, so for this situation our magnitude of this radial component is still unknown. Okay, then ds bar. So if we consider this closed surface integration into three parts, so first part will be for top surface, the second part, here our bottom surface will be there, so second part of integration will be for bottom surface, and thirdly this curved surface. So third part of integration will consist of curved surface. So Q can now be written as integration of top surface d bar dot ds bar plus integration for bottom surface d bar dot ds bar plus integration of curved surface d bar dot ds bar. Now as you can see, for top surface and bottom surface, for top surface the direction of d is radially outward, so it is the direction of d, and the direction of surface is az bar. So here you can clearly see the 90-degree angle or right angle, so this dot product will turn out to be 0. Fine, because the angle between d bar and ds bar is 90 degree. Same way for the bottom surface also, the direction of flux density will be radially outward and direction of bottom surface will be negative az bar. So here also a right angle is being formed, and that is why this second term in this equation will also turn out to be 0. The only non-zero term will be this third term, because for this curved surface the direction of d and direction of surface both are AR AR bar. Fine. So here the angle between D bar and DS bar will be 0. So for third term we can have, in place of D bar we are writing DR into AR bar dot now DS bar. So for the differential surface in the direction of AR bar, we can write this surface as, so DS bar in the direction of AR bar. So it will span in a theta and phi and z direction. So d phi and dz, but this difference in angle must be lateral, so we will multiply the radius with this d phi. So ds is equals to r d phi dz AR bar. So for this surface we can write r d phi dz AR bar. Now AR bar dot AR bar will be 1. This curved surface integration will turn out to be double integration, because we need to cover the span of area in 2 dimensions, one in phi direction and second one in z direction. So now our calculation will further be proceed like this. So dr we are having multiplied by r, here we will not use dot, okay, multiplied by r into d phi dz. Okay, now the limit for phi will be 0 to 2 pi, limit for z will be 0 to L. Okay, so what we'll have, so dr will be constant, it will be out of the integration sign. R radius is also a constant, so it will also be turn out to be constant. Integration of 1 with respect to phi will be phi itself with lower limit 0 and upper limit 2 pi. Again, integration of 1 with respect to z will be z itself with lower limit 0 and upper limit capital L. So putting these limits in right hand side of this equation, we will have 2 pi r L into dr, and now the value of dr will be equal to q upon 2 pi r L. But we have rho L as a line charge density, which is nothing but q by L. So replacing here q by L with rho L, we are having dr is equals to rho L upon 2 pi r, and implies in vector form we can write the flux density as dr into AR bar, so rho L upon 2 pi r AR bar. We have another relation with E bar and D bar. So E bar is nothing but D bar divided by epsilon naught. So we can directly write the value of field intensity due to infinite line charge as rho L 2 pi epsilon naught r AR bar, and this is the same equation that we have derived with the help of Coulomb's law before couple of videos. Okay, so the main thing over here is that if you are choosing a correct Gaussian surface with satisfying all the laws, then you will have very easily determined of these quantities, which is flux density and field intensity. Fine. We have also determined the field intensity for infinite line charge, but at that time we had used Coulomb's law. Fine. Now again for the same case we are going to determine E and D, but this time we will use Gauss's law. So again we are assuming a Cartesian coordinate system and an infinite sheet of charge with having the surface charge density as rho s coulomb per meter square placed on xy plane, and we need to find the intensity and density due to this infinite sheet. So what we will do, we will first determine the direction of D. Now for this sheet for the points above xy plane, the direction of d bar will be az bar, and for the points which are below xy plane, the direction of d bar or say e bar will be negative z, so it will be minus az bar. This is the direction of intensity as well as flux density for the points above xy plane. Okay, so again, first thing we have determined, so we have determined the direction of flux density, then we need to determine appropriate Gaussian surface. Now if we want to keep the direction of d bar either normal or perpendicular to the Gaussian surface, then we must have a parallelopiped which covers a small span on this surface. Fine, so we are assuming a parallelopiped fine, and it is having a small differential area ds bar. So as you can see, for these 6 surfaces, say this is front surface, this is back surface, this is right hand side surface, this surface is, or say this surface is left hand side surface, this is top surface, and this one is bottom surface. Fine, so for these 6 surfaces we are having the direction of d bar same as ds bar for top and bottom. Fine, because you can see here the direction of d bar is az bar. Also for this top surface the direction of area is upward, so we are having same direction. Same way for the bottom surface, direction of d bar is downward, and for this bottom surface the direction of area is also downward, so we are having same. And for remaining 4 surfaces, at every point we are having 90-degree angle. So as you can see, out of these 6 surfaces, 4 surfaces are making right angle with flux density, and the calculation will be quite lesser due to this fact. Fine, so again we will follow the same procedure. We have determined the direction of flux density, we have also considered a Gaussian surface, and we will consider Cartesian coordinate system to solve this case. Okay, so writing the form of Gauss law, that is q is equals to closed surface integration d bar dot ds bar. Okay, so here the closed surface integration will be divided into 6 parts. So we will have top surface integration d bar dot ds bar plus bottom surface integration d bar dot ds bar plus right hand surface integration d bar dot ds bar plus left hand surface integration of d bar dot ds bar plus front surface integration of d bar dot ds bar plus back surface integration of d bar dot ds bar. Now except top and bottom surfaces, all these 4 integrations are turn out to be 0. Why? Because here the angle between d bar and ds bar is 90 degree, and due to 90 degree angle this dot product will be 0. Fine, here for top and bottom cases the angle will be 0 degrees, so we can write here d bar is nothing but magnitude of flux density and direction, which is az bar. Okay, so for top surface we can write d bar dot ds bar, so it will be two, or say capital D into A. Let us say this is area is A. Fine, and same thing can be written for bottom surface. So AD. So we can write 2 into, here dz will be 2 into dz into A will be equal to Q here. So we have simplified this term as Q is equals to 2 into dz into A. Now the magnitude of field flux density will be Q upon 2A, but here rho s is nothing but Q by A because it's a charge per unit area. So rho s can be written as Q by A. Now putting rho s in place of Q by A, we are having dz equals to rho s by 2. Fine. So we can write d bar equals to rho s by 2 az bar coulomb per meter square. So this is the formula for flux density, and now using this relation E bar equals to d bar upon epsilon 0, we are having rho s upon 2 epsilon 0 az bar. So this is the same formula that we have derived at the time of Coulomb's law and application, when we were discussing the application of Coulomb's law. Fine. But here with the help of Gauss's law, it is comparatively very easy to determine the intensity and field flux density. Now for the third case, we are having a coaxial cable. So we know that the construction of coaxial cable is such that we'll have a inner conductor, then we'll have some insulating material, and then we'll have again a metallic surface or say bedding or armoring of the conductor, which will make the coaxial cable. Fine. So we are having ultimately two conducting surfaces or two conductors. Here we have taken inner conductor radius as A and outer conductor radius as small b, and the length of our cable is capital L. Fine. And we need to find the field intensity and flux density due to this coaxial cable. So let us start the discussion. So first, from the symmetricity of charges, it is very obvious that the Gaussian surface will be of cylindrical shape. Also the coordinate system that we are going to use to solve this case will be cylindrical coordinate system itself. Okay. So now assume that the inner conductor is having a density of rho s coulomb per meter. So for inner conductor, the surface charge density is rho s coulomb per meter square. Fine. And the total surface area of inner conductor, now this total surface area or curved surface area will be, S inner will be 2 pi A into L, where A is the radius of inner cylinder. Fine. And therefore the line charge density can be expressed in terms of, so we are having the surface charge density of inner conductor, but from these available values we can define the line charge density of cable as rho s into surface area divided by length of line. See, this manipulation is necessary because we are going to have the relation with respect to length of cable. Fine, that is why. So rho s into surface area is 2 pi A into L divided by length of line, which is nothing but capital L. So we can write rho L is equals to 2 pi A, which is nothing but a circumference of inner cylinder, rho s coulomb per meter. Okay, so we have converted the surface charge density into line charge density with appropriate assumptions. Okay, now applying Gauss's law. So Gauss's law states that any charge enclosed is nothing but the closed surface integration of d bar dot ds bar. Okay, so here for cylindrical surface we are having the direction of d bar at right angle from the surface of top and bottom, and we are having a 0 degree between differential surface and flux density when we are talking about curved surface. Okay, so we need not to calculate for top and bottom surface, we just need to calculate for the curved surface. Okay, now what is the case here? Say if we have the Gaussian surface inside the inner conductor, so somewhere over here, so if we have a Gaussian surface like this, then you can see there is no charge enclosed by this surface, and if no charge is enclosed by this Gaussian surface, then d bar will be 0 because q enclosed is 0. Fine. So for the inner portion, no electric flux or no density will be there. Same way for the outer portion, say if we are assuming a Gaussian surface like this, then for this surface the total charge enclosed, so you can see if for inner cylinder there is a value of charge density as rho s, then for the outer cylinder it will induce the same amount of charge with opposite polarity. Fine, and we can conclude that from the Coulomb's law. Okay, so for such cases the outer cylinder, that is the Gaussian surface, it will enclose the net charge 0 because whatever the charge density of inner cylinder will be there, the charge density of outer cylinder will be of same magnitude with opposite polarity. So the net charge enclosed by this outer surface is 0. So again the portion or the space outside the coaxial cable will have 0 field intensity and 0 flux density. The only region where flux density and intensity is defined is the region between these two conductors. So this region will only have some finite value of intensity and density. Fine. So inside the inner cylinder, E bar and D bar is 0. Outside the cylinder also E bar and D bar is also 0. Okay, so moving further, so now the radius of our Gaussian surface will change from A to B only, and previously we had the relation Q is equals to dr into 2 pi r L. Fine, so these two relations we have already derived. So now Q is equals to closed surface integration of rho s into ds. Here only the curved surface will be taken into consideration. Fine, top and bottom surfaces are making right angle with d bar, so it will not be considered. So ds for this case can be written as a ds bar is equals to a d phi dz ar bar. Okay, so again performing this calculation will have, now this closed surface integration will turn out to be surface integration, so it will be double integration. Rho s will be same, it is a into dz or d phi and dz. So the limit for phi will be 0 to 2 pi and limit for z will be 0 to L. So rho s will be constant, it will come out from the integration. Same way radius of inner cylinder, that is A, is also constant, so it will come out from the integration. Now integration of 1 with respect to phi will be phi itself with lower limit 0 and upper limit 2 pi. Integration of 1 with respect to z will be z itself with lower limit 0 and upper limit capital L. And finally in place of q we are going to write dr into 2 pi rl. Okay, so finally we can write dr is equals to a into rho s into 2 pi into L divided by 2 pi r into L. So L will get cancel out, 2 pi will get cancel out. The only remaining thing will be rho s multiplied by A divided by R. So this will be the value of magnitude of flux density. Fine. So from this value we can write in a vector form d bar equals to A rho s upon R AR bar, but we have rho s is equals to rho L into 2 pi A. This relationship we have determined in the very beginning of this discussion. So we can write d bar equals to A into rho L divided by 2 pi A into R. So now A will get cancel out, and finally we will have rho L upon 2 pi R AR bar coulomb per meter square. So this is the formula of field flux density in the region between both the conductor. Fine. And from this formula we can use the relationship E bar is equals to d bar divided by epsilon 0. So we will have the value of field intensity as rho L upon 2 pi epsilon naught into R in the direction of radius, obviously Newton per coulomb or volt per meter. So by using Gauss's law we can find the intensity, we can also find the flux density, we can find the charge is enclosed, we can find any other thing very easily if the charge distribution is uniform and we are wise enough to determine the true shape of Gaussian surface and to select a proper coordinate system. Thank you.